Today we're looking at the men's hobbies that women find the least attractive according to surveys, with a lighthearted twist. Not because a man should ever give up a hobby for a woman, but because it's interesting to see how certain passions appear from the outside. I'm Lady Saphira, and if you find value in my videos, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to support the work I do here. Now let's dive in. Welcome back, dear friends. Today we're taking a look at the 16 men's hobbies that women, according to surveys, find the least attractive. And at the end, the one hobby they find the most attractive. I'll only briefly touch on that last one because I've already made a full video about the most attractive hobbies in men. And I want to be clear, I'm looking at this list out of curiosity, not because I think a man should stop pursuing something he loves just because some women don't like it. I'm also not here to criticize men's hobbies. This is more of a wink, a lighthearted look at how certain interests can come across and why they sometimes land someone on the solo list. This survey was conducted among 800 women by Date Psychology. It's not representative, of course, but I've compared it with other surveys, talked to my friends about it, and yes, many of the answers definitely line up with what's here, especially when a hobby suggests a certain lifestyle. It can be perceived as unattractive, particularly if the woman herself has no interest in it. So here is the list. The least attractive hobby is at the very bottom. We begin with the ones that are still okay among the unattractive. Number 1, comic books. Yes, some women associate comic books or comics in general with childhood or with nerdiness. It can give the impression that the man never really grew out of puberty or is stuck in a fantasy world. Not necessarily, but it can. Especially when the hobby is taken very seriously. Hours spent collecting, discussing superhero universes, and so on. Personally, I don't find this hobby unattractive at all. It's simply a niche interest. Number 2, cosplay. Funny enough, I actually know couples who met through cosplay. For some women, this hobby is double-edged. On one hand, it's creative, artistic, and requires confidence. On the other hand, it may look like someone is escaping too much into fantasy worlds. And in general, people tend to be attracted to those who share similar interests, values, or hobbies. So, if she has absolutely nothing to do with cosplay while he attends a new event every week, yes, there might be friction. Don't be mad at me. I'm just the messenger. And I also had to pause and think for a moment why this could be a turnoff, but yes. It could give the impression that the man wants to lecture others, always be right, or turn every discussion into a debate. And yes, there are people like that. Someone who constantly constructs arguments and dismantles counter-arguments can be exhausting, even if he's right. Nobody wants a know-it-all. But when he enjoys the hobby privately, for example in a debate club, I actually think it's great. It sharpens the mind, improves eloquence, and trains analytical thinking. Drinking as a hobby? Yes, that's definitely understandable. It's not attractive to me either, and of course, an occasional glass of wine is not a problem. But this refers to regular drinking as a hobby, and that's simply not healthy. Someone who turns drinking into a hobby often seems like he's drinking away his problems instead of facing them. Alcohol also reduces self-control. Under the influence, people sometimes do things they normally wouldn't. MTG, this is a trading card game. I didn't know that. A collectible card game. Do you know it? I don't. So I can't say much about it, but I do collect things. I used to collect stamps. Would you like to see my stamp collection? That line was actually real in my life. I don't find collecting unattractive at all. It depends on what is collected and how much time is invested. But collecting shows passion. It shows someone cares about something deeply and becomes an expert in that area. Anime. Yes, some women also associate this with childishness or prolonged adolescence, childlike fantasies. Someone who constantly watches series, collects figurines, or gets lost in endless fan discussions may seem less mature. On the other hand, anime can also show creativity and humor, especially if you can laugh about it. Makeup. Okay. Men who do makeup as a hobby. Are these hetero men? I don't want to step on delicate ground here. Not in this video. Crypto. Now this is an interesting one. Cryptocurrency is an area that fascinates men much more than women. Many women simply have no access to it and don't want to. Trading Bitcoin and so on. While it does show interest in technology and strategic thinking, traits that are attractive, outsiders often associate it with losing money, speculation, risky decisions, or something difficult to understand. And I think that's a big reason this hobby isn't popular with many women. Cigars? Yes, of course, the health aspect. But I do wonder why cigarettes aren't on this list as well. Maybe because cigars can come across as old-fashioned or showy to some women. A kind of masculine cliché, often seen in music videos, where it becomes part of self-presentation. Maybe that association comes from there. I don't know. Naturally, it's always difficult when a non-smoker dates a smoker. But I think today, when far fewer people smoke compared to 10 or 20 years ago, this combination is less common, meaning couples where one smokes and the other doesn't. By the way, I'd be very interested to know which hobbies you men find unattractive in women, and also why you find them a turnoff. Leave it in the comments. Clubbing as a hobby? Yes, understandable. And I'm guessing that clubbing is not considered an attractive hobby in women either, from the male perspective. Someone who is constantly looking for the next event can quickly come across as superficial. Marijuana. Again, I'm just reading what's on the list. I once had a friend who smoked a lot, and yes, I've tried it too in the past, but I did not inhale. The downside is, when one person smokes and the other doesn't, you're not on the same level, not in the same reality, and someone who smokes constantly often seems passive or tired. Of course, marijuana can promote relaxation, creativity, and humor, especially when used responsibly. But I do understand why a woman who doesn't consume it herself might not find it appealing. And please, share your thoughts in the comments as well. Do we have many very relaxed people in our community? FCO. I had to look this up. It refers to Funko Pop figures, small collectible figurines based on characters from movies, comics, or video games. Apparently, they have a huge fan base. Again, this may be something that goes back to childhood associations, similar to comic books, online arguing, or debating. Yes, I can understand why some people find this unattractive. On one hand, online platforms are full of negativity. Constant outrage can drag you down, and that negativity often carries over into real life. People become irritated, passive-aggressive, or constantly talk about these online conflicts. And those thoughts keep affecting them. Often the person they're with gets pulled into that negative spiral as well. Maybe some of you have experienced this yourselves. On the other hand, someone who spends a lot of time arguing online may give the impression that he's always at home and has nothing better to do. Now we come to the top 3 of the least attractive hobbies in men. Porn, yes, that's obvious. But honestly, I want to meet the man who tells a woman this is his passion. From a woman's perspective, this is definitely a turn-off. strange, maybe even unsettling. If she hears or discovers that this is his big hobby, she might think he's more focused on sexual satisfaction than on real intimacy or connection. It can also trigger insecurities because these films create completely unrealistic expectations. By the way, here is my video on what excessive consumption can do to you. Here and here. Gambling, also understandable. Of course, gambling can show strategy, patience, and nerve control when handled responsibly. But at the end of the day, it's still a game of speculation, where you lose in most cases, and one with high addiction potential. Someone who constantly sits in a casino, places sports bets, or gambles online quickly appears obsessed with winning rather than pursuing real goals. Does he take financial responsibilities seriously? Does he rely on luck instead of actively working for something? Women look for stability in a man, and this is the exact opposite. And now, the most unattractive hobby of all, the manosphere. For those who don't know what that is, it refers to various online communities and forums, a virtual space where mostly men discuss masculinity, dating, relationships, self-improvement, and gender roles. Many of these communities are critical of feminism. That alone isn't bad. I also criticize certain aspects of modern feminism. But some parts of the manosphere encourage sexist views. Some are openly hostile toward women. Men gather there and reinforce each other's beliefs, often in ways that can seem very problematic to women. Of course, not all men in the manosphere have issues with women or express misogynistic or condescending views. There are many other topics being discussed. Many men simply want a space where they can talk and feel understood. But the word manosphere has a negative reputation because certain subgroups are aggressively anti-women. It might even be helpful if more moderate men in these spaces would interact with the more aggressive ones to have a calming influence so that hostility toward women doesn't continue to grow and more bridges can be rebuilt. And now, the most attractive men's hobby, according to women. As I said, I'll keep this short because I've already made a video about it. It's reading. Yes, reading represents depth, curiosity, intelligence, a thirst for knowledge. A man with a book in his hand looks like someone who can occupy himself. He doesn't constantly need others for distraction or external validation. Books are also wonderful for conversations or philosophical discussions. It's a safe hobby. No danger, no need for worry, and no situation where other women might interfere, unlike clubbing. It really only has advantages. And it's no coincidence that reading is considered especially attractive. Women appreciate a man who is well-read and knowledgeable. And remember, all of this is meant with a wink. Don't take it too seriously. As always, it's just a thought-provoking topic. And don't forget to share your own ideas about the least attractive women's hobbies in the comments. Thank you. See you very soon. Goodbye.